Hello and welcome to another episode of our hit show, Myths That Are Being Busted or Not Being Busted Quickly. I am your host, Pete.
And I am your other host, Pippi. Hello. On today's show, COVID masks. Are they really depriving us of oxygen?
Then, later on the show, chloroform. Perfectly safe for children and for pets, or to be preserved for chemists and serial killers only.
Our first guest today is no stranger to the internet. He recently posted a video in which he placed a carbon dioxide meter inside his mask, which showed very high levels of carbon dioxide. He then described the various health effects which may arise from exposure to carbon dioxide, including headache, drowsiness, decreased attention, nausea, anoxia, brain injury, a coma, and death. He finally concluded that by having a mask on, you will virtually just killing yourself. You have more chance of dying with a mask on than actually breathing outside fresh air and negating that your body will be able to negate the so-called coronavirus. Let's meet them now. Hello and welcome.
Good day, and thanks for having me on the show today.
Oh, you know, I just love it when people talk Australian. Can you? Or say for me in Australian. Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining us today.
Yes, I certainly can. G'day, Sheilas and gentle Joeys. Boomerang, boomerang, walla walla bing bong, shrimp cocktail, Hugh Jackman.
Oh, I just love it.
Okay, why don't we begin with you, Mr. Australian, telling us a little bit about your background. How did you become a carbon dioxide specialist, and what are your credentials, please?
Thank you. Well, I am Australian. I purchased my own personal carbon dioxide meter. It came with a pamphlet, which I then proceeded to read on both sides of the page.
Oh, fascinating, thank you. As you know, our show is all about myths that are being busted or not being busted quickly.
Yeah, that's right, Pippi. For today's myth, we have got two participants that will be assisting us in this COVID mask claim.
One participant, Tando, had to assist with the one with the chloroform myth.
Yes, of course, thank you. I am familiar with the rigors of the scientific method, as I myself have demonstrated with my credentials and use of scientific equipment and informational pamphlets.
Well, okay, Dean. As for our participants, they are to be wearing a pulse oximeter, which would be measuring their blood oxygen levels, whilst they have been wearing a mask, either a surgical mask or a FFP2 for at least a minimum periods of 30 minutes with the pulse oxygen meters. Let us cross over to them now.
Hi guys, can you hear us? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling fine, thank you.
Well, my liver, fuck. The myth is true, the myth is true. Pandemic, pandemic.
Pippi, that are Thunder. He had taken some chloroform for the next myth.
Okay. Sorry, Tando, sleep well. Sweet dreams, chat later.
Okay, for our first participant, please can you state for us, what are your current oxygen levels like?
The current levels are at 98% oxygen.
That are very interesting. And what is a healthy oxygen level, Pippi?
Between 95 and 100% is considered normal, Pete.
So it would seem that by wearing the mask or having the mask on, it have not affected these people's blood oxygen level.
That would be correct, Pete.
And so therefore we can assume that they are not at the risk of developing any of the health effects that our Australian internet star sensation have so mentioned in his video.
That would be correct, Pete.
Okay, Puppy. But now before we are too quick to be confirming if this myth are being busted, can you tell me why did our guest mention that his CO2 meter was reading over 5,000 ppms when he was breathing into it?
Well, Pete, every instrument has its own limitations. For CO2 meters, depending on the instrument you have, the meter can have a response time delay of up to several minutes.
Huh.
So, if the air inside the mask is being changed 12 to 16 times every minute, which is the average breathing rate of a person, then the meter may have not had enough time to catch up and provide an accurate real-time result. Or the meter wasn't left inside a mask for long enough to provide an accurate average, or it just exhaled the whole time that it took the measurement.
What? What?
Yeah, that is right, Mr. Australian. I think Puppy is referring to you.
Right.
Also, if you think about it, doctors and nurses wear masks for up to 12 hours or longer every day. You don't see them routinely vomiting on their patients or dying from lack of oxygen. Same for people who work in chemical plants or dusty areas for up to 8 to 12 hours per day.
Yeah, nee, it is true, hey, Puppy. Gosh, I think we should have you on our next episode on myths that are being busted. We could call it Females Who Are Blonde and Brainy Bashing Down the Doors of Science.
I'm a transvestite.
O, liewe Christen. Oh, Tando, you're awake. That are good, man. Yesterday. Well, thanks to our Australian guests for joining us today's show. It does in fact look like this myth are being busted.
Yeah, mate, sorry. I do in fact have other facts to share with humanity.
I wonder if he has any myths about why Australia didn't win the World Cup.
Ja, nee, Puppy. Hey.
That's all for now. Take care.
Excuse me. I can in fact confirm that the aliens are amongst us.
Oh, no. Okay.
Now, hold on a minute. I have more. Oprah's vegetable garden is funded by the Russians. Illuminati have monopoly on the ice cream industry. Frozen was created so that Walt Disney's cryogenically frozen corpse no longer appears in Google search results.
How do we mute this guy while the credentials play out?
There you go.